it'll be another good chance for us to review it. So it's good to have you guys back. I appreciate Amber and Ben and I kind of brainstorming on kind of reconnecting. I'm reminded of something that I recently heard, which is if you go to the gym today, you're gonna see little to no progress. You go to gym tomorrow, same, right? It's the 100th day that you're gonna be a very different person. And relationships work the exact same way. One of my biggest fears, with me or without me, and I've told Amber this, is that you think of our last get together as an event. It was interesting. It was great to see each other after some time. It was, certainly second day was fantastic. We had some partners and customers in the room, and it was a great event. Not much comes out of events. Events are a great chance to plant a seed. Events is you going to the gym today. When it comes to, and I don't want to talk about the rest of what was on the agenda, but my area of expertise, what I was invited, and I think I mentioned you guys, Ben originally heard me speak, I don't know, 2017, 2018, several years before our get together. Relationships need that consistency. Relationships need that prioritization. And I often say, if you lead with the relationship, so think of it as an arrowhead versus the feathers at the tail end of the arrow, it will dramatically change your output, your outcome, and your impact. So by now, you know me. This is one of those Nourisms. I may have mentioned it when we're together. If I didn't, a lot of people confuse output with outcome. And when it comes to relationships, you need all three: output, impact, right? Output, outcome, impact is what creates value. What does that look like? Output is you sending somebody an email. Outcome is picking up the phone, call them. Did you get the email? Did you have a chance to read it? Did it solve your problem? Impact is 30 days later. Hey, I'm following up on our last conversation because it dawned on me, and I talked to 2 other people that are struggling with the same thing that might be really useful to you. And I'm telling you, your relationships need to see you, need to feel that you care enough to follow through, which is a process, not just follow up, which is a transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and just assign you to a breakout room, and 5 minutes.
We have 3 people here. Tom's hiding in the corner.
That's fine.
We're on the table.
Yeah. Here's the assignment, and I'll go between these. 5 minutes. Talk about what's your biggest relationship building challenge. What's your biggest relationship building opportunity? 5 minutes. I'm going to open the rooms. Go ahead and jump into your rooms, please. Breakout rooms. This is with your own colleagues. What's your biggest relationship challenge or an opportunity? Jump in your breakout rooms, and let's go in there and discuss. I'm going to go between the rooms and check in. So go ahead and jump in your various breakout rooms.
It's cookie time.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for making the time. I jumped in the various rooms. I got some really good nuggets. Let me just run through some of the stuff I heard, and then I want you to jump in with anything I missed. So one, really difficult to do this remote. Really difficult to kind of build and nurture those relationships in these Hollywood squares, where in the past we used to be able to walk down the hallway and kind of shoot debris, and the water cooler was there, and it was just really easy to get to know how their weekend was and how the kids were. And we've lost some of that, right? And we used to go to companies and they would want to see us in their offices, and obviously that's declined a good bit. Number two, so logistics and remote, the missed opportunities, time and focus. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the focus. There's too many people. I'm being asked. There's already enough in my day. I'm kind of breathing with a straw. I just kind of barely come up for air. I don't have time. Staying in touch, right? Fitting the time and nurturing those, prioritizing relationships. How about people who are not interested? I heard, there's people that want the transactional. Just, hey, send me that information, or just give me a price, or you know what? I don't, my weekend is none of your business, right? I don't talk to my wife much as I don't want to tell you about my family and issues, right? So, and then trust. How do I nurture that trust? How do I build that trust that we kind of build on? Did I miss anything? Anything from the different groups? Anybody burning that you want to share with the broader audience?
We had one from our group that was like finding a common ground, finding, something in common to talk about.
Yep. Yes. That's a great one. Okay. So what I want to talk about is, over 2 days, I gave you pieces and parts and hopefully some Nourisms or Nour nuggets. And the intent of this one is 5, almost like summarizing those 2 days into 5 best practices. So let me list the 5, and then I want to give you the foundation where those 5 really work well. So number 1, clean contacts. I'm going to go through the list, and then I'll come back to each one. Number 1, clean data, clean information, clean contacts. Number 2, top 100. Top 100. Number 3, relevant updates. Relevant updates. 4, asking more who questions. Who, WHO, who questions. 5, relationship mapping. 5 is relationship mapping. The foundation of which those 5 really excel at. So if you're building a stack, right? If we don't get the foundation right, the rest won't matter. Foundation is 3 parts: touch cadence, trust, somebody else has brought it up, and mutual value exchange. Mutual value exchange. So now let me jump into each of these. And my goal is make it practical, less theoretical, more practical things you can think about, things that you can do. Again, I use the gym analogy. If you go to a gym, you work with a trainer, I can help you get in shape. I cannot do the work for you. So this has been a struggle for me for 22 years of people are looking for, in the Matrix movie vernacular, a blue or red pill. There's no such thing. So if you're willing to kind of do the work necessary to get better at this, you'll see results. You'll see results, and I'll talk about some of those in a second. But starting with number 1, clean contacts. I've said this when we were together: garbage in, garbage stays. One of the biggest challenges almost everybody has, if you go into your contacts, for most of us, there's a lot of garbage in there. We collect a lot of contacts. We never go back and clean them up. So I'm indifferent of what source. A lot of us live by our phones. Some people live by Outlook or whatever your contacts are. You got to make the commitment of in one place, and without getting into the technical details, if there's sync of this data somehow, great. But pick one place. It could be your phone. It could be your Outlook. But commit to cleaning up those contacts. And my coaching is 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes. Start with a turkey baster timer on your desk. However, whatever works for you. But for 15 minutes a day, commit to, I'm going to go in. And by the way, every time you talk to someone, I usually have my contacts open. Hey, Jim, do I still have that? Is that the right still cell number for you? And Sandy, are you still at that address? I know nobody's going to their offices, but where would be a good place for me to physically send you something? Oh, send it to my house. So if you have the contact open, or if you're disciplined enough to, from your notes, quickly capture, hey, by the way, I've got your professional email address. Do you have a personal one that you also use? Or if you're connected with them on LinkedIn, a lot of times people put their personal email addresses in the contact info on LinkedIn. The key is commit to cleaning up your contacts, and 15 minutes a day. By the way, if they're no longer relevant, if they're in your previous life or you moved from Atlanta to Seattle, a lot of times those Atlanta people are just not going to be relevant. Think of your neighbors you were best friends with next door till they moved, and you haven't talked to them in 5 years. So if the context of the relationship changes, they're no longer relevant. So one of the things I do, again, practical, pragmatic. I don't know about your world, my world, like this app, between Christmas and New Year, it's dead, right? Most people are on vacations or they mentally check out. And so I export my contacts into a spreadsheet. I want to keep that information, but I wipe the rest of it clean. So I have a spreadsheet of my contacts. I label it, I tag it, right? And then I kind of one by one bring in or import back into my contacts the people that I interact with most often, which leads me to number 2. Before I go,
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please.
Just quick question.
Yeah,
Do you keep your personal and professional contacts in the same place or in separate places?
I do. I don't know about you. It's hard enough to try to keep up with one. I don't want to try to keep up with, 5 different places. So what I do is I tag them. I tag them first and foremost, work or personal. And within that, I even have subcategories. So again, let me show you. Let me show you. Share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So my contacts, here's, all of my contacts, right? You can see they're just, they're all of them. They're coming from multiple sources. They're right there. What we're talking about is ecosystem. So I have a work and I have personal. So Atlanta, people around Atlanta I know well. Past colleagues, people I've worked with previous life, friends, personal friends, education alumni, undergrad, grad school, faith. My wife and I are very active in our church and we belong to a couple prayer groups and then I ride motorcycles. So these are the different buckets where I have relationships. On the work side, are they a customer? Internal? Are they a prospect? Do I know them just in the industry? Are they a partner? Are they a nonprofit? So don't overcomplicate it. Come up with buckets where your relationships most often fit, but start to tag them, start to categorize them. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
So then number 2, I said top 100. One of the biggest misperceptions or misnomers that social media has propagated is that more is better. We all know that's not true. I've got 20,000 contacts on LinkedIn. Who cares? Bulk of your opportunities, bulk of your relationships, bulk of the problems you're trying to solve are going to come from, by the way, sociologists have proven this, 100 to about 150 relationships. So one of the disciplined things you can do, of all the people you know, start to tighten that aperture, start to really focus on who's most important to me, who's most relevant to me in what I'm trying to do. And a really good rubric. Now, it depends on the role, but this is just, again, back of the napkin, very simple way to think about this. Break it down. 100 might be overwhelming. Oh my God, how the hell do I come up with 100 names? Break it down. First by categories. Then start with 5. I know you can make a list of 5 people that are really important to you. Then go to 10. Then go to 20. But start thinking about buckets. So again, for me, who are my top 20 customers, individuals that are existing customers that I have to make sure I stay in touch with, I connect with on a regular basis, I keep my finger on the pulse of the relationship. Next, who are my top 20 prospects? For me, I've got to grow my business. I don't know a business that doesn't need to grow and fresh, and you can't cut your way to growth. So who are the 20 prospects that I really want to build and nurture a better relationship with? Next, 20 internal. We often forget about internal relationships that I need to nurture. I need to touch base with on a regular basis. I've got to make sure I'm okay, they're okay, we're okay. Next, channel partners or people that could be referral sources for me or introductions. The last 20 are just who's in the market, who are the influential people in the market that I want to stay in touch with. It could be that college professor. It could be that industry association person. It could be somebody you're on the board of or you're active within a nonprofit board. But did you see how I did that? Here's the 5 buckets that are most important to me. If I put 20 in each, there's my 100. Again, very practical way of doing this. There you go. My top 100 of all my contacts. Here's my top 100. I don't know if you can see. There's only about 35 in here right now. So I practice what I preach, right? This is a very important, advisor, right? Phil Oswald. There you go. If I go back, here is a really important prospect, right? Brent. So of all the contacts that you have, start to narrow down who are my most valuable? Who are the relationships that I need to nurture most proactively? Who is critical to your success? I've always said, give me somebody's checkbook and their calendar, and I can tell you about their relationships. So who's your top 100? Again, don't get caught up on 100. Start with 5.
Hey,
And I'm a grocery list kind of making type. So start with 5, then ideally 10, then 20, but start to prioritize. Yes, go ahead.
how often does the overlap occur? So I can see situations where 2 people might be each in their top 5, but I might have someone in my top 200 and I'm in their top 10 or vice versa.
Yeah, so great question. Joanna, what you're talking about is whether you're in theirs or they're in yours. Is that what you're talking about when you say overlap?
Yeah, and the I guess the relative importance is not always mutual, I guess. So
Okay, love that. So what I try to gauge is start with your own list. And what I'm trying to do is, and somebody brought up, others may not be interested in a relationship with you. I'm trying to tell you, it's really difficult to try to build a relationship with somebody who's not interested in you. Let's just, for example, I really want to work with Amber. I'm using as an example, right? And Amber's important to me. And I follow up and I send an email and I call and hey, touch base and we have a good conversation. I want you to sharpen your ears. What relationships are all about observable behaviors. So in a conversation, if Amber is trying to be nice and she says, well, Nour, it's good to know about you and let's stay in touch. Does that give you any sense of urgency? Does that give you any sense of importance? Does that give you any glimpse into you're a priority to her? I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't to me. So what I want you to do is think about a spectrum. On one end is passive. Good to know, and language is a manifestation of how we think. It's good to know about you. It's nice to have met you. It's let's stay in touch. It's right. It's not, and again, always assume good intent. But that language is very passive to me. Conversely, I have a call with Amber. Amber says, that sounds great. Let's talk tomorrow or let's talk next week. Do you see the difference? So what I'm picking up in every conversation, first make your own list of who's important to you, but really pick up on, and that's why I gave you the foundation. Onus is on you. Are you creating value for them to want to interact with you? Are you nurturing the trust so they want to believe you, they want to believe in you? And is there a regular touch cadence? I usually don't like to hang up one call without, hey, when should we reconnect next? What's a good, and again, I'm giving you language that works for me. Make it your own, but ask people, what's a good cadence for us to touch base? And look for that spectrum. Well, let's just touch base once in a while. You're busy, I'm busy. Let's just periodically touch base. That's passive. So they're probably on the lower part of my 100, if on the 100 at all. Conversely, if they say, hey, at a minimum, you and I should talk at least once a month. Okay, so at least I'm somewhat of a priority to them. And that's how I gauge, am I a priority to someone or not? And Joanna, you're going to like this. I'm at a place in my life where I deeply believe in no guilt, no obligation. I don't want to try to force you to like me. So I'm going to hang out with people who get me, like me, trust me, want to work with me. I call that your ideal relationship profiles. Go find people who are your tribe. Go find people who are your cup of tea. Go find people who genuinely like being around you. It is a heck of a lot easier to do business with those people than trying to pester the crap out of Tim to return, as an example, to return my calls. Charles, have you seen what a good job I'm doing? Lachlan, I'm doing a fantastic job. You really should like me. Who wants to do that? I don't want to do that. So whether it's a client or a prospect or internal, I'm gonna and again, I'm gonna make this practical. I have a 3-touch rule. I'll touch base 3 times, hopefully with a unique value add. If they get it, they'll say thank you. If they get it, they'll reciprocate or say, hey, let's continue this. I try to add value 3 times. If they don't, I'm polite. Always be polite and take the high road. But I can't afford to keep pouring into someone who's not interested in either me, my value add, the problem I'm trying to solve for them, whatever. Does that, Joanne, does that give you a glimpse into how I think about the duplicates? Okay. So number 1, clean up your contacts, 15 minutes a day, have your contacts open. Every time you talk to them, is that still the right phone number? Is that the right email? Is that the right house? Good. And your wife's name was, by the way, I said this when we're together. Everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So every piece of information you gather helps you proactively manage that relationship. So how was your weekend? It was great. Sandy and I, with the kids, we had a great time. Oh, we went camping, and I'm capturing all those nuggets because they become invaluable in you nurturing that relationship with them. Next time we talk, I'm going to ask, hey, how's Sandy doing? They're going to appreciate that I remembered, right? And wasn't your daughter applying to school? She's senior year? What? Right? That's how we build rapport. That's how we create meaningful connections. Yet somebody said it. We used to be able to do it in the hallway and in their offices. And increasingly, that's more difficult with virtual, right? Number 2, top 100. Narrow everybody you know down to who's most relevant, who's most important to you, internal, external. Now, these are mostly going to be work related. I've got buddies, I've got friends, obviously family and, friends. But this is what I'm talking about. Your top 100 is typically going to be my work related, family and friends aside, because I'm going to make, my wife says I've got to be somewhere at 3:00. Good chance I'm going to be there at 3:00, right? So people that you want to make sure you're proactively nurturing. Any questions on the first 2? Okay. Number 3, we're going to pick up the pace. Number 3, relevant updates.
Hey, Nour, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so you mentioned that 15 minutes a day to review that context, right? But how frequently do you really need to connect with them?
Yeah. My goal is at least once a month on my top 100. At least once a month, I'm touching base with them.
Gotcha.
So it could be a quick email, it could be a text. People have a preference. Again, let me just show you. So again, we call this touch cadence. So I need to touch base with Ken every couple of weeks. Everybody else is at least once a month, right? At least once a month, touch base with them. How are things going? What's happening? What are you up to? What are you doing? What are your summer plans? What are your priorities going into the fall? I read this. I come up with excuses to touch base. I read this and I thought it would be of interest to you. I send out physical notes. I send out just emails. I send them a message through LinkedIn. Figure out, by the way, everybody has a preferred communication channel. You know this. Some people are more text oriented. Other people will reply back to, some people are more Slack. I'll get a better response on a Slack message than I do anything else. Figure out where they live and touch base with them there. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thanks.
Okay. So relevant updates. I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn, people will say, hey, I've accepted this new job. or on, if you're connected with them on Facebook, hey, we just got back from Ireland. So these are, I call them touchstone moments. These are the big updates. You need to figure out what those are. You need to, look for them, ask about them. Hey, my daughter's getting married this fall. Those updates are fantastic chances to connect and to engage. Again, personally, I was talking to a leadership team. They wanted me to come in and do something I did similar for you guys last week, but the agenda was already set when I got introduced to them. It was too late. It was 3 days. It was too packed. So the executive said, we're going to do another meeting in October. Let's bring you in then. So I send a note to them at the beginning of, I captured in my notes that they're having their leadership meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday morning, I send her a note. Just, hey, wanted to wish you a great 3 days. I know it was a great agenda. I know the team is excited about some of your initiatives. Look forward to debriefing afterwards. Let's reconnect. She sends me a text back. Thank you for your kind note. Let's connect next week. So those events that are important to people, you need to capture those updates. The new jobs. So again, I know this Ben will appreciate this. I saw on LinkedIn that someone I've known since 2018 just became a CEO, right? And people are proud of it, right? And the people are proud of all kinds of things, but he's proud of becoming a CEO. So I send him a note. Hey, congrats on the note. Congrats on the new job. Would love to just kind of reconnect and get caught up on both sides. Would love to hear your priorities in the role. He replies back, oh my God, I was just thinking of you. What are you doing on Thursday? And it's just turned into a brand new kind of coaching and leadership development client for the next, for 6 months. So these updates are triggers. They're relationship triggers that, oh my God, and they often say, I was just thinking of you. Or, oh my God, I'm so glad you called. I'm in the middle of something that I could use your help with. So if you figure out what those updates are, and the updates that they most care about are not just professional accolades, but they're also personal. My daughter just graduated from Georgia Tech. My son is at UGA. My other, we became grandparents. Oh my God, executives or leaders that become grandparents. It's just a huge, we don't have any yet, but I understand to be a huge kind of joy. So another client, his dad, 93 years old, just passed away last week. I didn't have to, but we sent a very small kind of a plant with a note, just our thoughts and sympathy with you and your family. He called me this morning. Just, that's very kind of you. Got back into town, found the plants. You didn't have to. And I need you to hear this. I'm not doing it in a manipulative way. I'm doing it to say I'm thinking of you. And I want to either congratulate you on what's going well or whatever the struggles might be. So those touchstone moments, those relevant updates become a great trigger, in a positive way, a spark. People often say the response is, I was just thinking of you, or I'm glad you called. I don't know about your business. My business is event driven. They may not need me today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, but something happens and you want to be top of mind. Relevant updates help keep you top of mind. Any questions on those? And I'm scanning, I scan LinkedIn, I look at Facebook updates, I'm connected with some of my top one. Again, this is just for your top. You can't do this for 50,000 people. I'm really focused on that top 100. If it's 20, focus on that 20. So somebody brought up time and focus on that top 10, top 20, but nurture those relationships with these. Number 4, ask more who questions. I don't know if you remember when we were together, I often said when we face a challenge or an opportunity, we often ask, what should we do and how should we do it? How do we solve that problem? What should we do? What kind of project plan do we need to put together? Start asking more who questions. Who do we need? Who do we need? Who do we know? Right? But the point is, starts a conversation with, there are no new challenges. There are no new problems. The only new challenge or problems are the ones you haven't thought of. So I don't know if you remember, I showed you this slide when we were together. So this is the outcome. Far right-hand corner, relationship-centric goals is the outcome. Pivotal contacts is who do I need? Who can accelerate my ability to get this done? Relationship bank is who do I know? That's where we started with you cleaning up your contacts and your top 100. This deposit is an investment. Who can I invest? How can I invest in an existing relationship that's going to give me access to the people I need to accelerate my ability to get things done? If you're not asking enough who questions, you have no idea who these people are. Who's already solved that problem? So again, let me give you a very practical example. We're building some really cool technology. I need a very specific type of engineering expertise. I'm not in that world. So I'm leveraging my relationships, including an email to Ben, right? I'm looking for this type, this profile, this type of a person. Because, you know, Ben knows somebody over there that can help me solve this problem. So start asking who questions. Who has seen this problem? Who's most likely to have seen this problem? Who's potentially solved this problem? Who's come before us? Again, my dad drove into me. You're trying to go down a road. People who are considerably further down that road can save you all kinds of time, effort, pitfalls, headaches, potholes, broken ankles, on and on and on. So start asking more who questions. Who do we need? Let me pause. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Okay. 5, start doing relationship mapping. Relationship mapping is all about on that side, who are the 4 or 5 people that are going to be most critical, most relevant to this problem? The next book I'm working on tentatively is called Inner Circle. The 5 people that are most relevant to that problem, that are going to most impact it, that are most affected by it, they're going to feel the pain of, they feel the pain of it today. They're going to feel the benefit of the most. Start identifying those 5. And when I say start relationship mapping, who are the 5 on our side that we can start to connect? We can start to engage. We can start to put them together. So you may have heard me talk about this. I often talk about a relationship bow tie and a relationship shoelaces. If you don't remember the slide, it looks like this. So this is one of you with one of them. Let's say you have one contact at SBA, or you got one contact at that agency or that office or that partner. Start to create multiple contacts. This is what I mean by relationship mapping. Who are the 5? You cannot do this for 500 people. Who are the 5 people who are most relevant on their side? Who are the 5 people that are most relevant on our side? Let's start to connect the dots. Let's start to build these shoelaces of relationships. So a technical lead talks to their technical lead. A financial person talks to a legal talks to their legal. You get the point. But the more of this you build, the more you build what's called a relational defensible moat. You're now not just in there alone, you're building multiple contacts within that account, within that opportunity, within that relationship that's most important to you. So start building. I've got relationship maps for my top 10, my top 20 pursuits. This works really well with pursuits, but it's just as valuable after you get there. It's just as valuable you trying to solve a problem. Who do we need? Who's on our side that could be most relevant, that could be most directly connected to that individual? Questions, comments on those 5. Clean your contacts, top 100, relevant updates, ask more who questions, who do we need, who do we know, and start relationship mapping, right, on their side. Who are the most 5 relevant people? Who's our 5? How do we connect them? And ideally, there's a relationship quarterback on each side. So start leveraging who do we know that we can connect on each side. Let me pause. Questions, comments on those 5, and then I want to talk about the foundation for a second. This is the interactive part of today where you jump in with your questions, with your comments. Charles, does it resonate?
Yeah, it all makes sense.
Of the 5, what are you struggling with most? What's the biggest challenge for you of the 5 that I mentioned?
So for me personally, the last piece that you were going over, the difference between shoelaces and bow ties and turning 1 into 5, like, we've been talking initially about sort of how difficult it is to get the 1s or the 2s, right, and get them all going. And now you're multiplying that by 5. So like I went right to like, okay, that's obviously important. It makes sense. It's just another difficult thing to manage within the whole.
No question. Anthony Hopkins told Mission Impossible character. Come on.
Ruth?
Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. Anthony Hopkins told Tom Cruise it's not mission difficult, it's mission impossible.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I do is, Charles, I ask, I try to gain champions, right? That first relationship somewhere is typically going to be your primary contact. Typically, a lot of times you try to build a champion with that person. I often ask them, who else do we need? Who else do we need to make this successful? Not the sale. Get away from the sale, get away from the transaction, get away from, right? I want to use you for something, and think long term. Play the long game. Who do we need to be successful with this initiative? A year from now, who's most going to care about this? You heard me say this when we're together. Convey your credibility to the questions you ask. So I'm always trying to ask better questions. And one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is, okay, sale, got it, done, thanks, I'm done. The relationship starts after the sale. So I'm always interested in 6 months from now, year from now, who's most going to care about this? Who will this initiative or project impact the most? Oh, that's the operations people, or that's the quality people, or that's the Kansas City office. Those are the people that should be on your, again, start asking who questions. Those are the people that should be on your shoelaces. Who are the 5, not just to the sale, but after the sale, are going to carry this on, right? But you're right. It's not easy, and most people are not going to offer it up. So you have to ask, who do we need? Who do we need in this engagement? Who do you count on? That's another favorite question of mine. Most people, most leaders aren't doing that job solo. Who do you count on most often? Who's critical to your success? Tell me who's really valuable to you. As I nurture the relationship, and again, this is a lot easier if you start at the top, but I often ask for the org chart. Who else? Tell me who your direct reports are. Tell me who does what around here. And that will help you understand who are the people that, not everybody, but who are the critical people that they count on, they rely on, right? Liz, of the 5, thank you, Charles. Of the 5, what's your biggest challenge? What do you struggle with most?
I guess I don't know. I think more than anything, I'm like just so focused on like keeping things together.
Getting the job done, right? Yeah. Yeah. Listen, this is I think I heard Joanne mention to you, just cut yourself some slack, right? Just some days, I'm telling you, I barely keep my head above water.
Yeah, I got another one. If you want to go back to that slide where we're sort of getting to that mutual beneficial relationship,
Yeah.
like kind of thing at the end there. Not that one. It's like 3
Not that
circles
one.
or 4 circles. The final one is like mutually beneficial or something. No.
You're not, what was it? It wasn't this. Was it this? No.
No.
Was it slide?
No. If you go back to the slide,
Yeah.
and it's this circle that says your relationship banking, there were a few circles in there, and the last one is like basically it's mutually beneficial. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Relationship centric goals.
Yeah.
And sort of dovetailing with what you were just explaining, like my approach isn't to ask that question, right? Who else? Now I'll pick on Locke. That's probably Locke's nature, because like Locke's, we're different people, and he does that's what he probably does every day.
Yeah.
I don't do that every day, right? My knee-jerk reaction is, well, I'll just figure that out. Right. So what's some thinking about how to kind of get out of that
Love it. Love it.
kind of hole?
Charles, remind me, what do you do there?
Chief technology officer for the lender side.
Okay. Did you learn, were you born learning to code?
No.
Okay. How did you learn? How did you learn to do
I
that?
ask people. Yeah, I ask people.
Okay. So you brought up Locke. Relationships is something that regrettably is not taught in our schools. Is this group aside, this event, this gathering aside, is typically not part of our training and development program, is typically not part of new hire, or we promote executives and we kind of teach them executive presence, but we don't really cover this topic. So then how do we, most of us can't figure things out through osmosis. So we learn relationship kind of habits, skills, practices through modeling. We see somebody who does it well, and the trigger goes off in our brain. Ooh, I like the way Locke did that. I want to do that. So it starts with you just observing. So observe people around you who seem to do this naturally, or seem to do this proactively. Or my favorite, I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. I watch extroverts do it, and I'm in awe of how they do it, which is fine. It starts with just observation, awareness, right? What did Locke do that really worked well for him? Oh, he asked them on a call who else we should talk to. Well, maybe not to that level, but I can certainly start doing that. So you watch it, you see what works. What's really critical with relationships, you cannot be Locke, just like I can't be Locke. And if you try that, people, I'm telling you, people are going to see right through it. What the hell is wrong with Charles? He's acting like Locke today, right? People will see right through that, right? So you have to make it yours. You have to adapt, not adopt. Adapting is making it yours. Adopting is trying to copy somebody else. So start smaller. Start in that next call, next conversation. Hey, Nour said I should ask the who questions. By the way, who's going to do that for you guys? Or who's going to lead that effort? It's really easy to ask who in projects or initiatives, or so you have to create that trigger for yourself. When I said ask more who questions, everybody on this call can start asking more who questions. Who else is going to do that? Who else is, that's important to. What you were referring to in this slide, the relationship-centric goals are really outcomes. So figure out outcomes, figure out what they're trying to do, figure out what's important to them, and you figure out their priorities. And I'm trying to figure out not just what they're trying to accomplish and what's a priority for them, but who do we need? And you got to think of we. You got to think of, it's not us and them. It's not the clients or prospects or partners or people outside of STG and lenders. That's not the enemy. It's how do we kind of work with them towards a joint outcome? Yeah, I'll benefit from it, from selling our platform or selling, right, our solution or whatever the outcome is. Just asking, how do we get there together? Who do we need? That language becomes more inclusive and more trusting in how do we get there together. Does that make sense? So A,
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
observe. B, start trying yourself. Others, the 5. What are your most struggles? This is what great relationship builders really work. You want to lose weight, you want to get in shape. There's your 5 workouts. What you have to do is, again, I said this earlier, full disclosure, I cannot get you out of your house and into the gym. You got to take that initiative. But there's your 5 workouts. If you start doing these little at a time, few reps at a time, right? Cleaning your contacts, everybody can do. Top 100, I gave you a formula. Start think 5, 10, 20. But you got to focus on the relationships that are most critical to you. And a lot of people forget internal relationships. Or the other way, if David is, or you and David are, we're internally focused all day, every day, you tend to make a whole lot of internal relationship lists and you don't think enough externally. Who is that professor at that local university? Who's that, the local development team or the last startup thing you went to that I met another sharp CTO. Start thinking externally if your list is way too internally focused. relevant updates. This one is a heavy lift because you got to proactively either ask or look for them. Those are the only two ways I know how to do it. We're trying to do a clever third way, but you got to either ask, hey, what are your big plans for the fall? Tell me, where do you spend a lot of your time? Again, conversationally. How was your summer? What did you guys do? We're creatures of habit. So if that client went sailing, good chance they go sailing on a regular basis. Or if they took their kid to school, oh yeah, again, it becomes, Charles, you also got to start pulling the thread, right? Somebody says, yeah, we dropped off our kid at school. Okay, great, thanks. Wait, what school? What year? He or she? And what's his major, right? Without making it intrusive, just conversationally. And by the way, again, sociologists tell us whenever we meet somebody, we give a little, they take, they judge, they give a little back. We take, we judge, we give a little back. It's this natural exchange. Too much, too fast, and you're like, whoa, 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 dude, back up. We just met. Too little, and people are going to think you're distant or cold or indifferent. So you got to pick up on that rhythm of how much they want to share, how much you choose to share, and you got to capture those insights. For the last couple of minutes, let me just touch base on the foundation. Touch cadence. You cannot build great relationships if you don't proactively and consistently touch base with people. So I told you, my minimum is I try to touch base at least once every 30 days. I have my top 100. You can't do this with 5,000 people. Top 100, at least once a month. I'm trying to touch base, a text, a call, an email, a LinkedIn message. I send them something. If they're important to you, you got to nurture them, right? Some people don't require that. Some people every 6 weeks or every couple months, 60 days is fine. Figure out what their preference is. How often should we touch base? What's a good cadence for us to just stay in touch and gauge? If they're casual or passive about it, you're not a priority. You're not strategic. You're not of value to them. That doesn't mean you're not of value. You're just not value to them, right? And I don't want to try to jump uphill with a hand and a leg tied behind my back. So touch cadence is important. Your most valuable relationships, you need a regular touch cadence. Trust. Then you want them to believe you today. You want them to believe in you as the relationship develops. I have a very simple definition for trust. Credibility plus empathy multiplied by consistency over time. So credibility says you got to be an expert. You have to know your field. You have to know your subject matter. You have to become the go-to person for this topic. Empathy, be quiet long enough to ask questions and understand where I'm coming from and what I'm struggling with. Consistency, you can't do this on Tuesdays that are sunny and Thursdays that are rainy. You got to be consistent over time. This is not overnight. This takes time. And if you do something about it every day, if I do something about it every day, I improve the way I build and nurture those relationships. And you start to be seen as the go-to person. When you develop that early trust, leads us to the third bucket and the foundation, mutual value exchange. Think about whose calls do you return immediately? People you value. Think of who do you prioritize. I'm looking at, 75 emails. Who do you choose to reply back to? People you're exchanging value with. So you have to make sure you're one of those people. My goal is to try to add value in every interaction. If I can add value, if they're better off because of us and our conversation, I've done my job. You do that, you not only are building trust, you're creating what I call market gravity or pull. They look forward to getting your emails. They look forward to hearing from you because you're adding value. If you don't do that, if you just, hey, people are, they're polite. They'll take your call the first couple of times, but after that, they don't have the bandwidth. So make sure mutual value exchange, make sure you're nurturing that trust on a regular basis and don't ever do anything to dilute it. And then touch cadence, regular touch base with people is what brings this front and center. So I'm respectful of your time. We've got about a minute or so after the hour. I will share the recording with Amber. I will also, if you haven't been to the forum, so just forum.nourgroup.com is one place to get there. forum.avneer.com. That's another place to get there. But if you go to nourgroup.com on our website, under resources, there's a forum. We actually, I think, created a STG group. I'll post more in there. If you're not in there, I'm there on a daily basis. I'm posting things on a regular basis. I put out weekend ideas to think about. But I hope this has been useful to you. I'll share the recording with Amber, and I hope you'll reach out if I can do anything to help. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you, Amber.
Yeah, can you just put it on the forum?
Yeah, I'll put it in the forum, and just, yeah, come and you can watch it. I would encourage you. Come watch it. Come ask questions. I'll put the list there as well.